Well, the first race of the season was kind of a procession in the GTPs, with one driver having to take a flu day. But everybody's here today for the magical Mugello circuit as we go live for week 2 of the IMSA Vintage series, live here on Global SimRacing Channel. Well, hello, everybody. I am Craig King, and joining me in the booth today is Joey Atterbury, awake early. And with us, this is our director, Daniel Costello, using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. A track that has been used once before in the season, in the series. Sorry, and Valenteus won it in the GTOs last time. To find out more about this classic European circuit, we go to our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Autodromo Internazionale del Mugello. Only an hour north of Florence and owned by motorsport royalty Ferrari, this is a popular Italian track. With a short layout consisting of 7 turns and the GP layout having 15, the full length runs about 3¼ miles, or 5¼ kilometers. It weaves through the Italian hills with pretty much nothing but long, sweeping corners. It makes for spectacular views for spectators and drivers, but difficulty in nailing overtakes. The main spot for that will be into the first corner of San Donato. From there, a climb up through a series of corners that switch back and forth eventually plunges down through Casanova and Savelli. This is where speeds pick up greatly, and the compression up through the first Arrabbiata brings you to the blind crest of the second. Things finally slow back down just a bit with 2 final hairpins at Corientaio and Buccini. Make sure you get the exit right on that last one. It's more than a kilometer run down the main straight. This track was built in 1973, but has seen continual improvements and has hosted the Italian Grand Prix for motorcycles for many decades. In recent times, it finally saw an official round of the Formula One Championship in 2020. With the virtual version now arriving on iRacing, fans from around the globe can experience this breathtaking romp around the Italian countryside.
Well, it's not as sunny as it is out here in the video today, Joey, but this is the track very popular with the prototype drivers.
Yeah, I think it's a popular track if you're looking for some good draft pack racing, and of course settled here in northern Italy. Mugello, it is 15 turns at 3.25 miles in length, and look at how long that front straightaway is. So you better get ready for some huge draft games, especially with that brake zone going into turn number 1. And then the rest of the track is filled with what I like to call S-turns. You see turns 2 and 3, the first set of S-turns, turns 4 and 5, another set, 6 and 7, yet another, and then you go up into sector number 2, turns 10 and 11, another S turn, and then turn number 12 down there. You got to make sure you get the launch out of that corner because it's actually a pretty good straightaway through the last S section into turn number 15, an incredibly long left-hander. You got to be able to get on the throttle as soon as possible because, like I said, it leads you out onto that huge monster straightaway.
It kind of feels a little bit like this is the European version of Gilles Villeneuve because of the number of chicanes. I look at Villeneuve with those chicanes, but it's kind of a little bit elongated with some of these S-bends today, as you will see later on in the race as we go to course. We've had 1 round so far, but we still get to show you the quick championship standings because Valenteus is leading ahead of Pepe Fuentes with Gabriel Martinez, who is in 3rd. Lesniak came 4th, and Yvon Platon was 5th, with Hemming Swebek in 6th. Then comes David Ricciardi and Jack Wells. One of those drivers won the second split. It's one of the reasons why we're showing the standings today, because one came in 7th in the top split, one won the second split. Seamus Powell will be in 9th, and Lars Olsen will be rounding out the top 10 for the GTPs. The GTOs, kind of a who's who of GTO drivers.
Yeah, of course, we do have that multi-class going on, and right now it is Hagner leading by that 3 points over Noel Lundberg. Mickey Friesen sitting there in 3rd place, Josh Brain 4th, with Henry Morse rounding out the top 5. And like you heard Craig say, because we've only had that 1 round so far, these points championships are going to be very close and shuffle up quite a bit. Cotasalo here in 6th, with Haycox in 7th, Van Hicks 8th, Cloud 9th, and Krejcik in 10th.
Well, let's get as well to just the information for the racing today, because it is round 2 of 12 and it's a 40-minute race as per usual. Open setup, so bring what you want to make, and community loves to make some setups for everybody if you want to go and get into this series. But what you bring, you crash, you're done for the day. There is no spare car. and then you'll have the drive-through through 17 incident points, and then it'll be a disqualification at 25, not additional penalties today. And with how much road you can abuse here today, Joey, on this type sort of track, I feel we may see some drivers flirting with that 17 incident points.
It could certainly possibly be, and then of course you got that 25 disqualification. But to your point, you know, there's a lot of gravel out here, and I think of these Audis with their all-wheel drive. Yeah, if you do get knocked off the course, you can just kind of stick your foot to the floor and continue on. So maybe keep an eye on those incident points, especially if you're banging doors with your competitors, picking up those 4Xs.
Well, qualifying has started, and we're coming up to halfway through qualifying. As Zamaola just seeing through the fog there. Can we get the helicopter a little bit lower? I don't know if we can or not, but we'll have to see if Daniel can control the helicopter up there today. Now Jacob Reed goes into first position. You just start to see it's a modern day track, lots of wide spaces. Remember, they kind of use this track for motorbike racing most of the time, and you see those times at the moment from Jacob Reed, a 1:29.690. Just to give some context here, fastest qualifying time this week was Zamiola for 1:29.292. As the GOAT, Valenteus, he came close to completing the Triple Crown last week, becoming the 5th driver to make a podium in all 3 races on the legendary weekend circuit, but just couldn't get that Triple Crown.
Right now over in that GTO class, it is Hagner leading with provisional pole at a 1:48.1. So as we watch Valenteus come up through sector number 3 here, this is that final S-curve section, then you approach turn number 15. Look, the elevation throughout this racetrack really falls away from the driver right here. Such a long left turn, still going, but you're already on the throttle. And now it's just pretty much grab whatever gears you got left and maybe take a sip of water, take a sip of coffee, take a sip of tea, whatever you got inside the cockpit there, because it is a long ways down to turn number 1.
It's a long way, and it's a long way to make some time up here. Valenteus is going to have to find some time. Jacob Reed will come across the line as well as he looks to try and go faster, and it's just not fast enough. He cannot beat Zamaola, and that was his second lap. It was so close. But championship leader and early doors for the GTOs is Joni Hagner. He's just coming by. That is the long loop penalty there for bikes. We won't be seeing drivers taking that today. He's coming through another section. We're coming down the hill one more time. And now you get to see the difference in the GTPs to the GTOs, because Valenteus did like to just load up the throttle early, but look how long Joni Hagner is waiting before he can get there. Got a real good buffer of 1/10 over Schuster for the pole position. Hopefully he'll come across the line here to improve on that 48.183. Can he get into the 47s? Well, not entirely sure. He doesn't, and Schuster snipes him.
Yeah, just like you said, Schuster crosses the line moments behind Hagner and snags away that provisional pole position. Here's Van Hicks crossing the line. He is going to be up into the front row as well, a 48.0 out of that number 5 car. So Hagner slipping down to the second row.
A little bit of a surprise, but we'll see later in the day how that's probably not going to be a problem here. Valenteus not being on the front row, that's a problem. Can he get up into the top right now? He does. He does. He does with some good times. No, it isn't good times, of course. He's still there in 3rd place. That was his fastest lap, and it was still a 10th slower than Zamaloa.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, just look at the timing and scoring ticker, how close everybody is on that, call it top 10 of each one of those classes. I know it kind of scrolls through everything, but it's only maybe 0.02 of a second back to second place in Jacob Reed, and then maybe 1/10 of a second back to Valenteus, maybe another 1/10 of a second back to Fuentes. So you go through that entire top 5, top 10, and it is incredibly close times. Close enough that the draft could probably leapfrog you from 3rd or 4th up to the front.
Yeah, we're on board with Jack Davis Pickett, and that slipstream could be very important later in the race, especially for the GTOs. Down that long straight, we'll wait to see what happens there. Not sure Jack's going to be able to set a timer. His first lap was invalid. He's going to be at the back of the GTO field. If he's starting at 18th position, it's going to have to be tight, though, with 30 seconds to go. But he will get there through beyond Eti 1 and 2, and then into turn 15, otherwise known as the Bucine corner. And it does feel like, try to say it high and then low when you try and pronounce that Bucine. Down he goes He's got 15 seconds. He will be the last driver to set a time. And hopefully he can get into the top 10. Jack's a driver that you want to see fighting it out into that top 10. Come across the line, and it will not. And free today for the GTP. So Zamaola will be in pole position with Jacob Reed in second, and Valenteus will be in third. And then Pepe Fuentes will be in fourth with Laus Olsen in fifth. Even Platon will take sixth, and Jack Wells will be seventh with Gabriel Martinez in eighth, Christopher Lesniak in ninth, and Shadi Ahmad will round out your first page. Got 2 more pages to go with a single split today into row 6. Henning Swebeg will be 11th with David Ricciardi in 12th. Milo Gichari comes up to the GTPs this season in 13th. Vivian Youngblood 14th, and then Brendan Lim 15th with Eki Anderson 16th. Andre Felipe Diaz will take 17th, and Jose Conde 18th. And Miguel Villamarin will be 19th, with Javi Perez in 20th, with 6 more drivers left to go. Not all of them taking qualifying times. Falsolo Goodies will be in 21st. Thomas Tuba 22nd. The last of the time qualifiers with Diego Mastretta 23rd. Antonio Alvarez 24th. Lance Simon 25th, and Jason Keddy will be 26th. The GTOs, I just realized we've got a full qualifying lap. I could have gone a little bit slower.
That's what I didn't want to interrupt you, but yeah, we got a little bit of time. No standing start. Got the full pace lap out here. So GTO grid is going to be led off by Andreas Schuster. 147.73 is that pole time. Van Hicks is going to be lined up in second place in class. Hagner in third, with Josh Brain lined up in fourth there next to him on row number 2. On row 3 is Mickey Friesen starting fifth with Ian Haycox in sixth. Hernandez is going to be starting in seventh with Doug Cloud in eighth. Paulik back here in ninth with Timothy Reed starting off 10th in class. And then across the page, we've got Sam Skovgaard here starting in 11th in those GTOs with Romain Bello in 12th. In 13th, we've got Aitor Sintes Galindo. In 14th, we've got Wickstrom next to him in the number 33 machine. Yanni Burr going to be starting in 15th with Richard Heinman in 16th. Emilio Catuono in 17th with JDS starting in 18th. The rest of these cars here did not set down a qualifying lap time, so they're going to be graded by iRacing. Looks like Snell back here in 19th. Crone in 20th, and maybe a couple more here. 21st looks like DeVries, and then 22nd is going to be Paul Jarvit back here.
We went from one of the fastest readings to one of the slowest readings. This is modern day iRacing. We have short laps and into the full lap here as we see Mugello circuit as they come around San Donato. And remember that downhill at the start, at the end of the lap to Busin, they go uphills to San Donato, and you do see some drivers do like to try and throw it out around the outside there later in the race. So that will be interesting to have a look at when we get there. The track temperature, 21 Celsius, 69 Fahrenheit, with an air temp of 19 Celsius, so about 67 Fahrenheit, give or take a few. We've got a wind, interesting here, a wind of 15 kilometers northwest. Now you think north, basically the start-finish straight is slightly off north. It's kind of like a northeast-east more than a northeast. So they will be getting a little bit of a side draft or side wind coming down that long straight today.
When I think of wind, yeah, it can certainly affect the prototypes, but I think more of the top speeds going into these brake zone sections, especially with these blockier Audi GTO cars. So just think about it, if you're doing 160 miles an hour normal with zero amount of wind out there, and all of a sudden you've got a 5, 8, 10 mile an hour tailwind, and all of a sudden you're doing 165, 167 miles an hour, or even more. Think about the draft. If you can pick up 5, 6, 7 miles an hour in a draft, that can definitely affect your brake marker. So when I think about the wind and that weather temperature, first of all, I look at the temperature. If it's on the cooler side, that means I can be more aggressive. Just the track is going to have more grip. The tires are going to like it. But then, yeah, the wind, depending on the direction, am I going to have to adjust that brake marker just a little bit?
And what's interesting as well, you talk about the speeds, let's talk about the slipstream here. You compare the fastest qualifying laps to the fastest race laps this week. And normally when you've got a track that's draft dependent, for these GTOs definitely, you look at what the GTOs are doing, their race times are basically matching their qualifying time. It's different in the GTPs. The GTPs are way faster, but it just goes to show that slipstream capability of the GTO will come into force once again today. And it is just going to be a case of who will want to take to the front early and who will want to be at the front at the end.
Also, it can mean a huge amount of track position because we had covered all of these S-curves, S-sections, whatever you want to call them, throughout this racetrack, and it can oftentimes lead to a single-file racetrack through certain sections. So if it's a big draft train, call it a wannabe DRS train out here, if you're leading or can get up in front of that pack and might be able to clear yourself from somebody that might be a little bit slower through the turns but really fast down the straightaways, that can pay huge dividends in that finishing position.
Well, the iRacing Porsche safety car is getting ready to just coast down the hill and let these drivers all lead their way. It's strange to see Valenteus not on the front there. There he is, the number 1 car. But 3, 2, and 1 are 1, 2, and 3 today. As the pace car will dive in. We're getting ready for 40 minutes at Mugello for the IMSA Vintage. Zamaola will lead them off now, and he waits for the opportunity. He's probably going to wait. Now he goes, and that's going to catch nobody off. Jacob Reed gets in right behind, and Valenteus is going to be side by side with Pepe Fuentes, and he has the inside. Everyone trying to go, and now Jacob Reed looks to try and go around the outside here of San Donato, and he may get it very well. Valenteus will take the inside, and Jacob Reed, as cool as you like, will take the lead away. They still go side by side. GTOs are coming up now.
Yeah, they're in the break zone, 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide, a little bit further back. There was some contact on the front row going through turn number 15, but it does seem like Schuster, your pole sitter, does escape with the lead as they come up and over turns number 2 and 3. Jacob Reed is off of the racetrack and in the gravel.
Yeah, a little bit of net code there between him and Zamaola. Nothing on purpose there. He's going to have to go all the way back and look at him. He's almost just held up Diego Estrada. We keep our eyes on the GTOs after their start, and you just start to see Van Hick looking for a move on Schuster straight away. They'll come straight on down from Maserati to Casanova and Savelli, sorry. And straight away Van Hick takes that lead away. Jacob Reed is the biggest dropper so far in the race. The highest gainer so far is in the GTO. Jack Davis picking up 7 already, as Alvarez, unfortunately, has had a little bit of a moment out there.
And that's just on this piece of racetrack where our GTO leaders are coming up to now. Look at Ian Haycock side by side. He is arguing over 7th place position. He's in that bright green number 25 car, unfortunately going to slip down to 8th place as Paulik takes away that 7th spot. Now Ian's going to fight back in this long right-hander. Can he get the throttle down? The shorter distance can prevail here in these Audi GTOs, and sure enough, he escapes now with 7th place.
That's going to take a lot of energy out, but some fantastic driving in ahead of him. They've got a driver who is serving a slowdown. Valenteus goes to try to defend again, and he tried to get past Zamaola, but nothing there this time. And these two are having a nice little scrap. It was almost a similar scrap at the start of the race for Jacob Reed. He's going to have to work his way up. That's the battle we were looking for finally. Reed and Valenteus battling, and Reed's going to have to do it the hard way. You start to see, I wonder if this is just a little bit of the tyres overheating. I see gravel getting kicked up there. Is Valenteus just struggling, or is he just waiting for the opportunity?
This GTO draft pack down the front straightaway to complete lap number 1 was pretty amazing going into turn number 1. They spread out pretty much 4 wide because they all pretty much ran into each other's bumpers at the end of that straightaway. That is how strong this slipstream is. And I do have to kind of point out something between Van Hicks and Schuster. Even before we got going, when we had the cameras on the GTP lead, there was contact through turn number 15 before the green flag was even thrown. So I think Van Hicks was definitely trying to be a little bit more aggressive at the beginning. Schuster was trying to crowd him, but now Van Hicks has got the position. He's got the clean air. I wonder if he's going to try to run away and put his foot down.
Well, let's just see what he looks to do when they get ahead to the next straight, as Jacob Reed is making his recovery drive. He's got 37 minutes, just under 37 minutes to go. Zamaola goes fastest already. Jacob's got to get past Jose Conde. It's going to be a who's who of drivers now for him to go up there, because to get to Conde, then there'll be Nachari, then Yumra, then Riccardi, and then you're in the names that everybody knows, and it's going to be tough because Jacob has the pace like Valenteus. But let's not call him an alien like Valenteus. He's good. But if this was Valenteus doing a last to first, you'd be used to seeing that already. Jacob Reed, he's going to have to do it the hard way. Still a lot of time to go. We're on board with Lars Olsen. Haven't seen him for a while, back after all his injuries, and it's good to see him racing here. Down 1 so far in 6th position.
Great to see Lars Olsen back, like you said, had to take a little bit of a hiatus, but great to see that blue, yellow, and green number 21 here today out on the racetrack, and almost had a pass for our GTO lead going down into turn number 1. I would think that's just going to kind of be a repetitive theme that as long as they can kind of come out within touching distance out of turn number 15, it's going to be an argument going down into the brake zone.
Yeah, and that's what you expect to see. It's going to have to be tough on those brakes as Lars trying to go on. Let's have a look at what happened at the start of this race. And this is Jacob Reed going side by side, gets to that chicane, and oh, yeah, maybe could have left a bit more room. There is sausage curbs there that will force a driver not to cut there. Some drivers may have the argument, could Jacob left some more room? It was hard racing though. You're the driver. You would say that is hard racing out there.
Yeah, I think that was, he left him plenty of room, and if there was a little net code, I mean, it was tiny, tiny amounts of contact. It's not like he went piling into the right rear here of Jacob Reed, and I'm going to actually take a little bit of a closer look. I don't see any damage on the right rear of this car, so even if there was contact, it was very small, and there he goes avoiding. I believe that was Dechari there in the number 31 car taking his own extracurricular line through that same corner.
Yeah, and I think he also hit the bump where the escape road for the marshals were, and that just went from gravel to tarmac to gravel, and that just put the car up a little bit, and he just lost control, trying to keep it there on the kitty litter. There was a scoop right in the middle. Jack David Pickett, real good start for him today. Already up to 10. Timothy Reed and Ian Haycock right in front of him. And he's just cruising right now. Not going to try and force his free wide. There is a gap in the middle. I wouldn't say you do this, Jack. I think you just wait for it. And this is smart. He sees that Timothy wanted to try and go around the outside. He'll slot in. However, the next corner, which is Lusco, is a left-hander. He's going to have to just reset, but he's right there. And it may be just worth it to work together right now to try and catch up to Josh Bray.
It could be, but I think that JDS is probably the fastest of this group as we jump up to the lead. Hagner here in 3rd place now. So he is trying to find his way around Schuster, and I think if there's any sort of difference between our top 4, it's actually that Van Hicks has about a 3/4 of a second lead right now over Andreas Schuster. It's been incredibly close ever since we've got that green flag, so maybe a little bit of side-by-side between Hagner and Schuster allowed Van Hicks to kind of escape away, but I have a feeling once we get down to this long straightaway, as long as those next 3 are playing nicely, they should reel in our leader once again.
Well, we talk about leaders, and the leaders of the GTPs are just starting on the back of traffic right now, as Valenteas just went past 21st position, which is Catuongo. And now he's just going, well, as I say, Valenteas is P2 at the moment. It's so weird seeing Valenteas not P1. Samaola has just come out of nowhere this season and last season as well, and gone, well, you may have your strong guys like Jacob Reed and Andres Valenteas, but I'm a driver that's really good here as well. And now comes the question, how good's your traffic management? Because you see what Reed and you see what Valenteas has been able to do for the last year and a half even. This is going to be tough because Zamaola is going to be tested right now on the straight.
Let's see about this slipstream. Valenteas sitting right in it, and like you said, Zamaola out front there, just trying to grab whatever toe he can from the Audis in front. This might be a braking tool. Andreas takes a look down to the inside, but covered off quickly from that number 3 car. Now they've got a lot more traffic on the horizon. That's a little bit of a nervous moment. You never want to see that. We're not even sure what's going on, but there is a lot of blinking.
Well, I just hear the Twilight Zone music going in my head right now. Maybe even the X-Files. Just delete where you feel applicable there. Everyone got around it, but that did cause Valenteus to take a safe line. And look at the aggressor. That's going to be a slowdown for Valenteus if he's not noticed an off track. But he had to try and keep up there to Tamaola. He realized he needed to probably a little chink in the armor there. So that's not a move we expect to see from Valenteus, and Forbin Pollock has to give some room. And now Ian Haycox goes a little bit wide as he comes on by. You see, Tamaola is trying to get ahead of this traffic to hold up Valenteus, and it's working, but Valenteus is just so much faster into the apexes.
Oh, and now that was maybe the wrong way around. Turn number 12 down there at the far end of the circuit. Valenteus thought he was going to have the outside line, and that GTO just kind of stuck right there. And this is one of those issues that we've got in the middle of the pack. Now, Martinez was able to get through that, but I think that was that blinking car once again. And look at this nose to tail going into turn at number 15 directly in front of Gabby here. And now it's going to go single file, but I have a feeling, Craig, it might be 3 wide by the time we hit the brakes down here. Watch this toe.
Well, first of all, watch Jacob Reed. How has Jacob Reed got up to 7th place already? And he's just gotten past Lance Sultan and Gabriel Martinez with no issue on that last lap. And now you got to start to see what he could do for the traffic. Gabriel Martinez saying, excuse me so much, Sam. Excuse me, Doug. Excuse me. And now Roman Bello's going to be stuck there. Laus is getting a little bit apprehensive. He wants to try and make this move around, probably kicking up some dirt as well as Jacob Reed starts to push on and push on hard. He does. Ahead of them will be Olesniak, who Olesniak is struggling in this traffic, and ahead of him is Pepe Fuentes, and they're all struggling in the traffic as they come through another chicane. Now they come to Casanova, and I don't think there's going to be any love lost out there today.
And here comes Jacob Reed once again with a big time run. He is trying to get through on Christoph here in this black number 16 car. Look at the amount of entry speed. He had to check way up not to get into the back end there. And so now we're at the top of the circuit, all the way at the tarms, the top of the elevation here. Now we go slightly downhill. This is towards turn number 12 here, downhill brake zone around the outside of that Audi, using all of this downforce, all of that aero grip that these GTPs have to offer.
And that's going to hold up Johnny Hagner for a little bit there as Reed had to get on by as he keeps on going. That timing tower, by the way, just to let you know, is true as Jacob Reed tries to cut into the inside of Lesniak. He gets it. Yes, I was just saying, Valenteus, when he made that small mistake that we saw there at Quarantino at turn 12, he had to serve a slowdown. That's why he's almost 3 seconds behind, and he's getting held up in that traffic there. Over now, Jacob Reed is only 12, 13 seconds behind the leaders. That's a recovery as we get on board with Johnny Hagner trying to battle Mickey Friesen right now for this last podium spot. And hello there, Gabriel Martinez. They're trying to have a little bit of a battle.
And they were forced kind of 3 wide into that brake zone, and now Mickey Friesen has that 3rd place position, so Hagner drops down to 4th, down 1 from where he qualified. But the biggest story actually happened about 2 laps ago. Van Hicks just managed to get out a little bit further, and he has created a 2.1 second lead between himself and 2nd place Andreas Schuster.
And that's big, and of course with this traffic, that's not going to help as well. We talk about the trains and the GTOs. Those trains have been blown up today. Someone needs to put the rail track back there to get those carriages on, because the GTOs are splitting. Kind of expected to see that today. 26 GTPs and 22 GTOs. So fewer of these Audis, which means less to overtake for the GTP. Still a lot, though, when you think with 26. Jason Kennedy, that's Javi Perez going around. That looks like a little bit of a multi-class moment there. Perez wanting to slow down there, and he might have the 44 in his car today, but I don't think he's very blessed out there.
Sorry. No, he's coming back out onto the racetrack. The same thing with the 47. But check out Jacob Reed. He is already making another pass. This is Pepe Fuentes here in the number 8 car, who kind of momentarily disappears off the screen. And now Jacob Reed up to 5th. I think the good thing that Jacob Reed was blessed with, as you were saying with the number 44, is that he didn't go around in the gravel, right? He didn't spin. He didn't make any tire wall contact. So it really is just kind of him versus the traffic versus the clock.
And he's already, remember last lap he was saying he's about 18 seconds? He's 13 seconds behind this man at the moment, Oye Tamaola, who just continues to put lap after lap, but that gap is starting to shrink a little bit. Valenteus took 2/10 out of him last time. Be interesting to see how many he takes out of him this time, because the gap will close, and when they come to traffic once again, and I'm looking at the track map, they are probably a lap or two away from it. It's going to be close to see what happens the second time, because they don't have to worry too much about making a hole for that man behind as Valenteus kicks up some gravel. It's just making sure you get through faster, because that gap is almost 2 seconds now.
Yeah, and I think that let's check the lap times this next time by, because Mugello is about to cross the line here. It was a 31.78, and then here comes the number 47 car. You see all the damage on the front left. He was just trying to stay out of the way from our leaders. As Valenteus crosses the line, a 31.5, so that's officially 2/10, almost a quarter of a second faster than Oye out front. Craig, kind of to your point, yeah, it is 2+ seconds right now, but we got 25 minutes, and it's only 2.4 seconds, 2.3 seconds, depending on where they are on the racetrack. It ain't over.
It's not over until they say it's over. Juan Fran Hernandez is battling Sam Gogurt here, and it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Not a driver we've seen a lot recently, against one of those guys that we like to see in the fab car, and late braking. I think he's overcooked it there. You can't outbrake a car in a GTO, and I think Juan Fran just realized that moment there. And that's big, because not only did he lose out to Skogard, but he also loses that double toe, which is Doug Cloud right ahead. Timothy Reed still having this battle with Jack Davis Pickett, and Jack Davis Pickett gets around him before they get to the corner, keeps it good. They're real good driving, and then picks up some gravel just for some safe moments there. Real good. And Shadi Ahmad on my timing tower, unfortunately, he's got around as well. Not sure what has happened to him, but the driver from apparently the Democratic Republic of Congo is tough out there for him today.
Yeah, dropped down a few positions, but you see all those cars lined up in front of him, so as long as there's no damage on that machine, should be able to get back up there and continue racing. And speaking of the incident, this is exactly what happened. That was just wide coming out of what was turn number 7. Got the 2 wheels in that outside grass there. Had a big old tank slapper, but it doesn't look like there's any damage, so hopefully should be able to continue on as Jacob Reed picks up yet another position. This is around the outside of Jack Wells. Almost a little bit of contact there. So move Jacob Reed up into 4th. It's about 4 seconds to go get himself on the podium here, but he is turning laps significantly faster than the number 11.
Yeah, doing real good out there, and Reed makes another one. Do you know, it's quite actually interesting to see. We've had 3 drivers go off into the kitty litter. One of them kept it going straight. The other 2 have struggled with a little bit of the GTP Pogo, which we know about. And the one that kept it straight is this man we're looking at right now, Jacob Reed, who gets a real good run through the traffic, and that's going to hold up. Look at it. He got around there so quickly there through Amaratia too, that he was able to go around the outside with no issues. Jack Wells had to do a little bit of a lift there to make it go. And now this is the man I want to know. I didn't want to look at that though. Emilio Dechari really held on to that, but that was so tough. This is the driver that he was the GTO Lights champion. He's come up to the GTPs this season. I do wonder if that was a little bit of a mistake there.
Yeah, and you see Mistretta as well, probably with a little bit of damage on the back end of that car. So he's going to go ahead and retire that machine. Now we're looking at a battle going out onto the front straightaway here. We've got Christoph Olenchik here battling it out. I believe this is with Pepe Fuentes here in the number 8 car, the black and purple number 8 car, doing about 175 miles an hour here before they jump on the brakes, and Pepe Fuentes concedes that position. So maybe Pepe not completely happy with the race car he's got underneath him. He's actually slid back about 3 spots from where he qualified, so maybe a little bit of a better car in qualifying than what he's got in race trim.
I wonder if he's got a little bit more wing, probably just 1 extra wing, just to try and make a move. And Ricciardi makes that overtake pretty good over Fabian Jungler, but I do wonder if some drivers just have this, just taking a little bit of a different setup here today. Try to keep the downforce as much as they can to be able to, but the GTPs, of course, the GTOs, they've got no choice in that wedge. But do you just feel that maybe they want to do that and just hold on. And keep my eyes as well. The lead GTPs have almost touched each other as they were battling with the GTO traffic. And while that is happening, Doug Cloud just gone, Roman Bello, I'm going to try this, and now I'm going to do my not best attempt at a drift there. He can do better, but he wasn't trying to drift. He just outbraked himself to Doug Cloud. Unfortunately, that allows Roman Bello to keep that place.
So we were talking about that race lead being about 2.2, 2.4 seconds. Valenteus that time by 1.3 seconds, now down to 1.2 in the grass, and oh no, that is a misfigured GTP car of Laust Olsen. I can only assume this is over in the turn 15 area.
It was indeed. I'm just having a look back at it myself, and I wonder if it's him trying to go around the outside of a car, trying to go around the outside of Julian Kron. And I think Julian just had a lot of understeer. We're just going to watch this here. It's such a tough corner. I think Julian just made a mistake there coming out beyond their team 14. And yeah, he's trying to brake, and you can see the wheels there. You can see the wheels are turning. He knows that he's gone in too hot there. And of course, he had that inside line, and he just could not hold on to it. That's just one of those rookie mistakes when you come to this sort of multi-class racing. Not general multi-class racing, Joe, because these are a different breed of what you see in the modern day IMSA.
Yes and no. I think that multi-class racing is just kind of a different animal in general, and doesn't matter if you have the slower car or the faster car, you kind of each have your own role out there, just like how we saw Valenteus just behind our leader here have to check up because there was an Audi in the way. The best way that I can describe it is that, all right, maybe we got fourth graders out there on the playground, but we also got eighth graders out there on the playground. But we have to share the same playground, the same slides, the same swing sets, no matter what. You can't just go up there and bully somebody off of a piece of equipment just because you're bigger and faster than them. We all have to survive here on the same playground.
But at the same time, you have a certain amount of time on the swing, and then you've got to give the swing up to somebody else. And it's my turn to go on the swing right now, says Valenteus, because I'm pretty sure he wants that lead back right now as he just keeps on going. I'm not a swing guy myself. I do like it, but if someone's using it, you go ahead and use it. And that is kind of the multi-class mentality, as Valenteus has gone all the way back here to the back of Zamaola. And you look at that timing tower as well. Jacob Reed has managed to get 3 seconds through that traffic, and he's still going through the traffic at the moment. He's got the lead of the GTOs to go, but right now, target fixation for Valenteus. He's back on the wing of Zamaola.
Is Craig King the king of the tetherball out there? You're just standing there, the winner of the tetherball competition, over and over and over, challenging everyone?
No, I have the whistle, and I tell people the rules, and they got to go by my rules.
Oh!
Valenteus, that's a close one.
Oh my goodness. That was incredibly close between that lapped GTO and our front-running car of Valenteus, who's sitting in second place right there. Quick reactions from this yellow and blue #1 car, jumped on the brakes, avoided any sort of contact, and he lives to see another day.
And that's important, and that just goes to show he's got so much awareness out there, Valenteus. We talk so much about it. This is a man who used to be 9K. And then one week in Road America earlier this year, kind of got rid of that 9K and then some. He took a break and he's back. Let's just see how good he is. Andreas Schuster. This is the only GTO train worth talking about. There are others, but Schuster fastest lap by a margin over Van Hicks. He did not have a good lap last time with a 49.1 versus a 48 flat. But Schuster's gone a bit too hot around the outside here, and the German's just going to have to reset. Maybe a little bit too much there as he gets Lesniak going by. But I wonder what happened to Van Hicks, because that's a slow lap there for the leader.
Yeah, and I just caught kind of the end of it. He was way wide, like off of the track wide in turn number 15 is Doug Cloud, and this the number 32 back here of Paulik as well, battling it out. So side by side up through what is turn number 2 and 3. That's a big slide. Keep your foot in it, Doug. It's got all-wheel drive, and he'll pull it right back out onto the racetrack. Oh, no. Overcorrection. And into the wall, unfortunately.
I think that GTO tried to follow its rally heritage there, and it was like, you've got it. It's so unfortunate for Doug, because
but the grass is over that way.
Yeah, I know. He had a couple of moments earlier this race today that you don't like to see it there, Doug, unfortunately, having that moment A lot of traffic right now. Hemming just went right through everybody at Fulton Pollock, trying to hold off Hernandez and Skogard right ahead. Doug Cloud 6 seconds behind them. They're trying to catch up to Roman Bello, who got by. And then I think that moment with Doug just held everyone up a little bit here. And you just start to see some of these drivers. This is a first for me in a 40-minute race, Joey. This GTO field is so spread. We rarely see this.
It is pretty spread out. We do have a decent lead battle because Schuster did catch up to Van Hicks, but this kind of trio right here is probably the closest in that GTO battle. I can't report, as we see on the screen, that Jacob Reed has now moved himself up into third place. The only problem is that he's got 13 seconds between himself and our lead battle of Valenteus and Oye up there, and we've documented how fast they are. Jacob Reed is usually the fastest car on the racetrack as long as he's got clean air. But the problem is, where is there a clean piece of racetrack now that we've been racing for, call it, 20 minutes?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. He's going to be able to get a lap of clear air as the leaders have just gone through a little bit of the back end of the traffic for the GTOs. So he's going to have that ability to try and find some time. It's not all the time in the world as we go back on board with Shadi Ahmad. He keeps on battling Henning Swebig, who made that insane move trying to get through the traffic. It's kind of a nature of this track. It reminds me of Watkins Glen a little bit, where because of the braking zones and the speed differences into the corners, the GTPs are able to make these more deftly and dicey moves here. I know some drivers did not like some of the moves that they were making earlier in the week, but the speed differences are really coming to fruition. And this is kind of the norm on most of these European motorbike type tracks.
Well, it kind of to expand your point, I think that the majority of the corners that we've got here at Mugello are, call it medium speed. I wouldn't call it high speed, but medium speed, maybe higher on that medium speed range. So therefore, look at how deep and aggressive these aero moves can be. That's the number 20 of Shady Ahmad making his way back up through the pack after that early little incident that he had. But kind of back to my point, when you have these medium speed corners, you can use all of that aero grip that the GTPs have to offer, while these GTOs are kind of a big brick of a refrigerator just sitting in the middle of the corner. They don't have any of that extra grip from all of that aerodynamics. So you get these crazy outside dive bomb moves. It's pretty fun to watch kind of from these chopper blimp views because it's almost like a rubber band, like a slot car effect.
Oh, I remember the old rubber band slot cars. I remember those. They were the best thing. 3 wide very shortly for these drivers. And that's a real good heads-up move from Henning Swebig. May have just picked himself a little bit there, but he knew the line that Van Hicks was going to take. And that's some real good heads-up driving from Henning Swebig there to get past Jose Conde, and you can just see that's a little bit of experience difference there when it comes to this sort of car. I remember Henning Swebig did drive the last time they came here, season 1 of 2025 as Valenteus, who won on that day in the GTO, is looking to yet a second win, this time in the GTP. They're now hitting GTP traffic as Brendan Lim had to restart the sim right before the start and had to take a pit lane start. Samola's trying to get on by it. Aitor Sintet Galindo knows what's going to happen because he knows how to drive one of those GTPs usually.
Yes, he certainly does. Always a driver to keep an eye on, and that was Valenteus making a forceful move down to the inside to keep in touch with our overall leader here. And just to kind of show you how skilled Valenteus is, I was noticing in the iRacing chat, now I don't know how long ago this was, but it was definitely after the green flag, he has typed in, "Eyes, use them, please," out there. So evidently he's had a few close calls with traffic.
Just a few. And if Valenteus is saying something, then you know that there's something going on, because he rarely talks. Rarely. Like, even after a race, he'll rarely talk. But if he has to say something during a race, something's gone wrong. Something's gone wrong as they go by. Brendan Lim will go by. There was one of those cars with a connection issue who just goes right in front and then right behind. And this is going to be dicey. Where does he blink out? He blinks back out again. Who gets the tow? Zamaola gets a little bit of tow there from Fulton Pollock. They're going to go free right here. 12 minutes to go and some change. Valenteus has the lead here, but remember, the inside of the line will to Zamalola. He'll get the inside into San Donato, and San Donato understeered. They come together, they hold together. Everyone keeps their nose pointing forward. Side by side, they go again now into Lucio. This is where they had the moment with Jacob Reed early in the race, and Valenteus decide it's not worth it right now.
That was some very, very close and respectable racing. And oh, this might be another nervous moment. Valenteus up the inside, but now they're going to have to split the GTO. They make contact. All three cars go crashing, spinning off on the side of the racetrack. It looks like Oye is pointing the right direction. Could this be an opportunity for Jacob Reed?
It should be. Valenteus trying to go. Valenteus put the pick through fantastic, and Zamalola, whatever the car right call, he thought there was room. There was no room there. Jacob Reed will take it. Lots of damage on the back there of Valenteus, but it's a meatball flag. It's a meatball flag for them. Who's got the meatball flag? Zamalola's got the meatball flag. Jacob Reed will have the lead of this race.
Oh my goodness, how the tables have turned. The number 2 car. Oh, and now Zamayo is going to lose it all by himself. That could just be from dirty tires. It could be from damage. But either way, the green and yellow car, the number 2 of Jacob Reed, is now firmly in the rearview mirror. He will have the lead by the time we come out of turn number 15.
He should have that lead with no problem. In fact, here he goes right away. Valenteus has got damage. He doesn't have a meatball flag, but that rear is so damaged. What is his top speed right now? He's just going to try and nurse this car back home, which means even Platon, he might get a P2 here for a moment. Zamola's going to have a lot of damage to get prepared there as he goes into the pits, and this means Jack Wells possible looking at a podium. He's only, Jack Wells, 7 seconds off the leaders, which puts him about 5 seconds off Valenteus.
Well, we'll have to see how that one develops. We know how fierce of a competitor Valenteus is, even with the damage on the car. I would love to get a replay queued up of that event. I think that it could kind of go 2 different ways here, Craig, because yeah, Oye kind of tried to move back onto the racetrack, but at the same time, Valenteus was using a GTO as a pick. I'm not sure if he was trying to squeeze Zamayoa into that other car. So it's once again one of these things where there's a lot of people on the playground.
A lot of people on the playground. And remember, this is a modern track on iRacing. It's got the 4-tire rule, where anything over the white line is considered an off-track. So let's get the real good. This is a good camera angle here. You can start to see he gets the run. He's blocked in. That, to me, still says he's on the track officially. That would not be an off-track. Now, surely, at this point, you know you're going to have to back out because there's no gap there. I know.
Well,
I don't know. You're the driver
no.
there. What do you feel?
So as a driver, I would be expected to leave racing room. Valenteus, yeah, he could be I'm not going to say the word, and box you into that slower class car, but I would expect him to leave me room so we both pass together. That's how I read it.
Yeah, I get that, and of course, you see these pick moves now and then on iRacing, and drivers do say it is fine, but you do have to leave the room. But then comes that question about the track limits there. So that's going to be one to be talking about for a while, and I know probably the race chat's going to be talking about it, and afterwards they'll be talking about it. But this is now a battle for the rest of the podium, because Platon is right on the back of Valenteus. Jack Wells is right there. Lesniak's right there as well. This is going to now be an interesting final 8 minutes, because Valenteus is quick, yes. Valenteus with a wing that, well, for context, he did a 134.9 last lap. Platon did a 132.7. I don't think he's going to be able to hold this off here. We could see Valenteus not getting a top 5 in a race where he does finish.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. Bottom line is that Valenteus will end up on the podium here no matter what. So it kind of to your point, yeah, the number 11 car is definitely caught up, and I think he's actually going to make that pass right now. So definitely a wounded number 1 car. However, Jack Wells about 1.7 seconds back, 7 minutes left on the clock. Yeah, I mean, how many positions is he going to bleed with that damage?
Well, if he's losing about 1.5 seconds to the top runners, he's going to be losing a second to some of the rest of the cars. Then they'll get the slipstream. I do wonder, he's trying to slipstream on the back of Platon, but as he's doing 2.72, Yvonne's doing 2.81 before braking. I'm talking kilometers here, not miles per hour. And you do feel that even if he can't use the slipstream to keep up the speed, in fact, he's just let Jack Wells go on by. So that's happened there. But while all that's been happening, nothing's changed in the GTO field. Schuster is still looking for that opportunity. Now comes the game of chess for these drivers, and they'll get wind that Valenteus isn't the lead man now. It's Jacob Reed, and that also throws permutations of, will there be an extra lap? Because the answer, yes, there'll be 23 laps for these cars.
And Jacob Reed is just running away right now, 8.2 seconds to the good in that GTP class lead. But like you said, Schuster here giving chase on Van Hicks, only half a second back. Now, Van Hicks did kind of balloon that up early in the race, but ever since, Andreas Schuster has hunted him back in and has yet to let go of that slipstream. So I wonder if he's just kind of patiently waiting right here for that move on the front straightaway.
Yeah, and I wonder if he's going to be doing it later in the race, because that just feels like a moment that he has to do. And now they're just waiting because they know their pace is good. Mickey Friesen has not been able to fight with these cars today. He's 3 seconds behind. So they know that they are matching. They don't need to be battling. If they battle, almost like what we've seen today with Reed, with Zamola, with Valenteus, they'll be going side by side through Stan Donato into Lucio and Poggio Secco, basically 1, 2, and 3. They'll be losing a lot of time. So right now, if he does have the speed, Schuster, if he gets up close, I think he'll just have a little bit of a lift. And yeah, he's not directly taking a slipstream right now. He's just waiting for that opportunity, which is going to come in about 2 laps, I reckon.
Yep, I think you're spot on with that. Just kind of patiently waiting, not getting too close so he can still use that full racing line, the grip that he wants to into that brake zone, do whatever he wants in terms of the racing line through this sector number 1 here at this Mugello circuit, and keep Van Hicks in touch. That way you can continue to use that slipstream, and on that last lap, or when you feel like you've got the advantage and can maybe even run away from that number 5, finally be able to make that passing move.
Now, wait, see, it is that waiting game for these drivers, and we know what Johan Van Hicks can do. So if he's forced wide and have to take the outside line, he usually does enjoy taking the outside line. And then remember, the traffic is just going to keep on going. In fact, they kept past here. Pepe Fuentes and Javi Perez will go by. And then after that is the most open space in the whole of the track. That's how busy it is right now. As this is Valenteus losing another position, this time to Olesniak. 7.5 seconds behind him is Gabri Martinez. And in all due fairness, Gabri's lapping a second faster than Valenteus. I think this is where it's going to be for Valenteus. He will keep that P5. And as I always used to say, Joey, it's the most important stat on iRacing because they always track the top 5s.
I see, you're showing me new stuff. I didn't even know that. Do they track top 10s or just top 5s?
Just top 5s. Wins, okay. Top 5s, yeah.
All right. But not in league stuff. I only race league stuff, so none of my stats ever show up.
You're number 1 in our heart, Joey. You're number 1 in our heart is Henning Swebe.
If you looked up my iRating, it would not be impressive. I would not make this field, that's for sure.
Well, it's a single split today, and the more the merrier.
Oh, hey, well, that would make it.
As well. And then Swebe continues his battle with David Ricciardi. This is one to talk about as well, because Ricciardi, he won second split last week. It was 2 splits at Sebring. And he's really showing it. Yes, we've had a couple incidents. Really showing it. As I say that, they come together. And I think that was Henning trying to be a little bit ambitious there for Lucio to try and make that move into Poggio Secco. But yeah, David Ricciardi really showing his pipes right now. His iRacing rating doesn't really show the nature of the driver. We've got 48 cars out here today. He's number 39. And look at him. He's dicing it up in the top 10.
Yeah, he's up there in 8th place. Like you said, it was Schwebig. That was another aggressive move. And did you notice that was around our GTO leader? So these GTP drivers like to be aggressive. There's Van Hicks that they just split on either side going around the Arabiata's corners, turn number 8 and turn number 9. That is one of the areas that these GTP cars can kind of put that aerodynamic grip on full display. But I think that Van Hicks was saying, I don't want to be a part of this at all.
Well, he may hail from Australia. I don't think he is from Australia. He doesn't want to be upside down like an Australian at the moment, and that was a close call there, but that's also just some confidence that, remember, the Audis take a line and they can't deviate from the line, and I wonder if that was a lot of that there as Shaddy and Matt trying to get on by Johan van Hicks, and Shaddy just using the Italian flag to his advantage there, comes on by. And this is going to be interesting because I do see Mickey Friesen starting. There he is in the background, starting to make some moves. Jacob Reed, well, he's got 10 seconds to the... Jacob Reed has 10 seconds to the rest of the field. He was in the gravel after turn 3, lap 1. And here he is, 10 seconds ahead of everybody. There's recovery drives, and then there's divine intervention, Joe.
It's been very, very impressive what Jacob Reed has been able to do, but I can't say that I'm too surprised. We've seen him come into various vintage series and really kind of put his foot down on how fast he is. It doesn't matter if he's in these GTP cars, if he's over in the Lotus 79s that we see him over kind of dabble in as well. You've got to be expecting that this number 2 car, or Jacob Reed as he's known usually, is going to be fast.
Yeah, the number 2 car started in P2, and as he takes the final lap here, because 55 seconds to go, this will be the final lap for these cars, and no battles at the moment out on the GTP field. Still keeping our eyes on that GTO. Jacob Reed just has a clean drive to the end now. He's got Timothy Reed coming up ahead. And then it will be Josh Brainers. Comes on, nice, smooth driving. Faru Savelli into Ariel 1 and Arietta 2. The Italian isn't as good as my Spanish, which is not good. Through turn 9 he goes into Scarpini now into 10. It's one of the last S's that he has to go through. And it has really been one of these races that's topsy-turvy. Because I don't think Jacob Reed expected to be standing on the top of the podium after what happened on lap 1. He thought he could get onto the podium, and he did. And then everything in front of him absolutely tore apart. This is a win of fantastic proportions. He'll let Josh Brain go by. He gets Josh Brain through. And with just one downhill to go, Busin will come. Jacob Reed makes a fantastic recovery drive. And he stuns the field. He takes victory today at Mugello.
Checkered flag for that green and yellow number 2 car. Well done. From being in the gravel on lap number 1 to collecting the top step. Ivan Platon will finish in 2nd place, and Jack Wells is going to round out your podium. I've got my eye on our GTO leaders. They've actually got a complete half a lap remaining here. They're coming up to what is turn number 6 as Valenteus crosses the line with the top 5 finish. Are we going to see that move out of Schuster? It certainly seems like Van Hicks is trying to kind of creep it out, and now he's got a GTP in between the 2 cars. This is exactly what Van Hicks wants to see.
Yeah, and you see Alvarez will be another GTP to come by shortly. Schuster could not make that move. He was really looking to try and make that move, but the traffic was not working there. Also, shout out Valenteus. Just held on to that P5 by a second to Gabriel Martinez. One more lap and it would have been all for naught. Around the outside will go Alvarez. That's not going to be good. In fact, he overshoots the corner. He's got to be careful here. This closes the corner up for Van Hicks. Opens it up for Schuster. Going to be tense here. They come on through to Biondetti. To that chicane one more time. And I do feel this is the advantage. Van Hicks can't be caught from here unless he makes a mistake. And I'm knocking on wood as I say that. It's a calm, cool collective. And he made that overtake midway through the race. And he popped the champagne cork there. Johan Van Hicks takes another victory in the season. Schuster will come home in 2nd. And Mickey Friesen right behind gets a very vital P3 today. Up 2 places, Joni Hankman 4th. But Jack David Spickett, 13 places to P5.
Heck of a drive. Heck of a drive. You see Mickey Friesen here pulling it off on the side of the road. He finishes with a nice podium finish. Give a shout out to that number 10 car. He had a huge battle with Hagner all race long, was right there. And then here is JDS, officially our biggest mover today, plus 13 positions, started all the way in the back, didn't get a qualifying effort in. Remember, we documented that. He made his way up into the top 5.
Doing some customary drift, though he didn't get it started very well going up the hill in San Donato, but we'll let him go after that as we head on to the positions, the final unofficial positions as Jacob Reed will take the win. Away from Yvonne Platon from 11.5 seconds. Then it's Jack Wells in third with Christopher Lesniak in fourth. Valenteus recovers. Well, I say recovery. He had to limp home in fifth with Gabby Martinez in sixth. And Pepe Fuentes had 19 FPS all race. Comes home in seventh. He didn't gain 19 places, though, but Henning Swebek will be 8th. David Ricciardi will be 9th. And Fabian Jungluth rounds out your top 10. And then it's Shadi Ahmad, who will be in 11th, for Jose Conde in 12th, up 6 places. Eke Anderson will be 13th, and up 10 places, Antonio Alvarez into 14th. Thomas Tuber will be a lap down officially in 15th with Lance Simon in 16th. Andre Felipe Diaz will be 17th with Brendan Lim in 18th, having to take that pit lane start. Lars Olsen had a moment, had an accident, managed to come back out 19th. He will finish. Javi Perez will finish 20th. One more driver, one lap down. Emilio Di Chiari will come home in 21st. And then Jason Creddy took an early retirement there. He will finish in 22nd. Zamaola will be 7 laps down in 23rd. Bartolo Guidi, who had that accident early in the race, will be home in 24th. Diego Mastretta, we saw 25th. Miguel Villamarin will finish 26th.
Over to our GTO results. It is Van Hicks leading the way. Was able to get the lead on, I believe it was about lap number 2, and then held on to it the rest of the way. Andreas Schuster put up one heck of a fight, finishing in second, only about a half a second back. Mickey Friesen also going to stand on the podium here in third, with Hagner finishing in fourth. Big gap back to JDS, Jack David Spickett, our biggest mover of the day. He gained 13 positions to finish in what is fifth. Josh Brain going to finish in sixth with Timothy Reed back here in seventh. Ian Haycox in eighth with Thorben Pollock in ninth. Doug Cloud rounds out our top 10 in the GTOs. Then across the page, it's going to be Romain Bello in 11th with Aitor Sintez Galindo in 12th. Sam Skovgaard in 13th with Wickstrom back here in 14th. Ruud de Vries in 15th, Berg in 16th, Krohn in 17th, Richard Hindman in 18th, and then Catiano in 19th. Jarvit back here in 20th, and that's really going to be doing it in terms of the cars that kind of were competitive today. There are a couple more. Hernandez and Snell took place in the race today.
Well, Joey, when we look at races like this, we usually talk about moments, but never real big talking moments, because they're usually just in the back rooms after a race. But this is similar to like a Hamilton Verstappen moment at Monza or Abu Dhabi or insert track here. Just what happened. You rarely see top drivers making those sort of mistakes, and today the pressure cooker kicked in.
It definitely did. There is some elbows out racing. And one thing that is, I shouldn't say frustrating about sim racing, but in real racing, let's say if you have one of these incidents, you get to walk down the paddock to your buddy's trailer, your competitor's trailer, and talk about it either with your fists, your emotions, or with words. And basically, it's kind of settled right there that afternoon. However, in sim racing, you got to be able to find the guy. You got to be able to DM him. You have to be able to have a conversation with him. Not everybody responds to conflict that well. So I think in the real world of racing, it's so nice to be able to walk down there and have that conversation, as tough as it may be. Here in the sim racing world, we can get those rivalries, and if they don't have those conversations, Craig, it can boil over till next week. It can boil over into a championship rivalry, into huge storylines.
Well, it is a huge storyline to begin with, because championship rivals, we haven't seen it in IMSA Vintage for a while, not even in the GTPs. But we talk about having to go and talk to one another after the race. Well, next week, we're at the Bend. We're down in Australia. So if you got an issue with your opponent, oh my God, that's a big track. I forgot how big that track was. If you've got an issue with your opponent after a crash, you take the hour to walk from the one end of the track to the other. You come to the garage, you have a couple tinnies, and you get it over with. It's going to be an interesting race next week at the Bend. We don't know what to expect. It's the debut here for the Bend on the IMSA Vintage Series. And that's unfortunately going to do it all today for Mugello, because what a race it has been. So I want to give a shout out once again to Joey Atterbury, who I made laugh a couple of times. I don't apologize for that. And Daniel Costello's also had a lot of fun as well in the booth with us today. And Dougie Beard providing those fantastic cameras once again. Here's the rest of the schedule coming up for us this weekend. It is Monza with no first chicane for the Lotus 79. Remember what happened last time we went to Monza? I think 200,000 people know what happened there. Skip Barber's in for next week as well at Summit Point. And then the Lotus 49s will be at the Nordschleife with the major series as well, going to Charlotte Roval. So do not worry about that. But also the Sim Racing Republic is still live on our channel if you want some more racing to watch, because that is looking really good at the moment as well, with a few hours left to go. But that will be all it is for us today. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to never miss any moment here, because I think we have just had the start of a brand new rivalry in the GTPs. And boy, we've still got 10 races to go. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.